I'd like to use my time today to talk about markets. Markets are great and powerful, and I firmly believe that the strength of our markets is what led us to win World War II and the Cold War, and served as a shining example for a lot of other countries who set up their post-war economies. But just because that markets are better, and they are, than a command economy does not mean they're perfect or 100% reliable, and no reading of history could conclude thusly. Frankly, I feel like that's being lost in the service of ideology. When we were contesting a philosophical battle with the Soviet Union, we were very aware of market shortcomings. In the early days of communism spread a century ago, I remember it well, we recognized that financial markets are prone to panics, and so we set up commissions to regulate the futures market and stock markets. We recognize that money markets are the same way and that they drive boom and bust cycles in the broader economy. So we set up the Federal Reserve to smooth out the money supply and try to promote economic stability. We set up the FDIC to try to bring an end to bank runs that happen in a free market for deposits. We set up a whole host of agencies to smooth out the market for home mortgages, and the list goes on and on. It took a while for all those systems to evolve and be put in place and work, but 75 years after the Great Depression, it is fair to say, it is accurate to say, that economic growth has been steadier and more broadly shared than it was in the 75 years prior to the setting up of some of those entities to help. We recognize now that there is inherent volatility, and to, in fact, harness the power of markets and to enable growth that's shared by the masses, if you will, we need to have these entities functioning. And I miss those days. We're having a fight lately over another one of those agencies that was set up to address market failures 80 years ago. We all agree, everybody in this room, that in a perfect world, the Export-Import Bank wouldn't exist. Of course, in a perfect world, neither would the FDIC, neither would the Federal Home Loan Banks. In a perfect world with perfect markets, we wouldn't need to respond to market failures, but markets aren't perfect. In our world, we recognize that even if we could somehow get China and Russia to play by the same rules as everybody else so that we had a level playing field internationally, trade financing markets would still fail in predictable ways. International financing markets would still have panics and would still freeze from time to time. Good customers in countries with poor legal systems would still struggle to get loans to buy products. Small companies who use community banks would still not be able to get working capital for products to be sold out of country. Private credit insurance would still only be available at scales too large to be useful to small manufacturers. These are predictable market failures, and they will reappear if the Export-Import Bank goes away. Even the banks that compete and function in trade financing acknowledge it. We used to be dedicated to addressing the failures of market so that everyone could benefit from capitalism's strengths. Maybe we did this because we were committed to helping all Americans share in capitalism's success. Maybe we did this because we were worried about being embarrassed by communist propaganda. Either way, we seem to have lost our way. The Export-Import Bank is good for capitalism, but capitalism's self-appointed defenders frankly seem to have lost sight of that. And I frankly hope we can reverse that mistake before it is too late. And to put a fine point on it, too late is defined here today, now, in this moment, of 23 more legislative days. I pray that does not happen. With that, Mr. Chair, I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields back. The Chair now recognizes the gentleman from Colorado, Mr. Tipton, for 5 minutes.